Uh, okay, in the effort to make CSP's animation tools easier to use, I've made these three auto actions that just help me sort of manage and just shorten some things that I like to do when I'm animating. The first one is just the preset animation folder, because the way that CSP's animation works is that it works in like folders and like, well, not folders, but like individual layers, right? Like think of layers as frames, and you assign each frame or layer because in CSP those can be interchangeable. You can assign frames and layers to a certain part on your timeline. So, for example, I have a preset frame ready here, already ready. I have a preset frame that isn't assigned to anything, but I've drawn it, and it's on my layer right here. This is the first layer. This is my first frame is labeled with one right here, and this is my first frame, but it isn't assigned to anything yet. So I'll let NecoArc just throw it away while I do this. But if I want to, for example, uh, assign that frame to somewhere, I'm gonna have to go onto my timeline, right click, and assign it here. And there we go. Now you can see the drawing that I've done here. This is the drawing I've done here. But a thing with CSP's animation though is that it's much easier to manage multiple layered things like this character who has their layers separated into head and hair by placing each frame into a folder. And when you do that on the CSP animation folder timeline, it makes it so that each folder becomes that frame. This is why this is. So what the preset auto action does, which is just this one on the list once you like import it in. Basically all you have to do is just play this and it'll create a new animation folder right here. And once you hit the button to just create a new keyframe, it'll automatically just create a new one. And in this new one, you'll have a folder labeled with one, and you have a layer inside that folder to draw in. You can draw whatever you want and just start animating from there, basically. And since you can do this, you can also just automatically add more layers if it felt like it. And once you do that, when you create a new keyframe later, it'll automatically have the same amount of layers here anyway. So you don't have to worry about like adding the same amount of layers later anyway. All right, that's just basically all that does. Now, the other auto actions that I have here is duplicate previous frame and duplicate previous frame other layers. Sometimes they describe this as like an F6 key, because for some people who used to use Flash, I used to use Flash a little bit, but it basically just lets you create a copy of your previous frame, for example, this frame, and edit it in a way that it won't affect the first frame. Because again, the way that CSP's animation works is that it assigns like individual it assigns drawings to the timeline. So I could, for example, copy this frame and then paste it somewhere else here, but this is the same frame, see, it's still labeled 1. So if I move this to the side like this, that makes it so that this other first frame here is still being changed. See how I'm like navigating between these two? I'm sliding between these two, and it still doesn't change at all. They don't change because they're the same. They're the same frame, just at a different point. So basically, if I want to make it so that I can move the same image a little bit, and I don't want to like redraw the whole thing again, the way that you do that is again with folders, but this basically expedites the process. Yeah. So the prerequisites to doing this is that again you need to have your animation layers inside a folder first off, and you need to be selecting the first layer that you want to be copied down here. And then once you do that, you can just hit the first auto action, hit it, and it'll create a new frame with this. But see, this can be a little difficult sometimes because again, what if your character has multiple layers, right? So this is just what you do next. You just navigate to the layer above it, and then you can go to the next auto action and press that one, and it'll automatically bring it over. And now, if I select both of these, move it to the right a little bit, you can see the onion skin notices that, and yeah, they're in different spots now. They're in different spots now, and I don't have to like copy it. I don't have to copy it, so I see it. It's just easy. Yeah, clearly, clearly. So this basically just expedites a process where normally you'd have to place your animation folder uh well into another folder and then copy it and then paste it into the next folder and then have to merge it down, and that's just a really that's just a lot of buttons to press. This one just makes it really faster. Things to keep note of though is that again you have to have to remember that like for example if you accidentally hit like this folder, this auto action too early, for example, if you hit it too early before you navigate to the frame above it, and by the way, this auto action repeats infinitely. You can do this with how many ever layers you want. You can do this with however many layers you want. This could be like a billion layers, and you could still just navigate up to the next one, press the auto action, it'll just copy the next frame in the previous layer too. But the thing is, if you accidentally stay on this layer and then do this one, it'll merge it into this one. Yeah, see, it doesn't really work, right? You get this like weird thing. So we need to go back. So the way that you fix that is that you could go back to your previous frame, select the bottom one, and then try again. You can just like you can just like go up to this one or yeah. And like again, normally if you just do this normally, if you normally do this without like going navigating to the next frame above it, what would happen would be it'd be this. And it would look fine, right? But like the issue now is that like this frame, it isn't separated into layers now, as opposed to this one, the first one. So make sure you navigate to the next layer, and yeah, that's basically just it. Try copy keyframe, even other layers.